Good evening, it's Jenna from Jenna's Crafting Studio, and I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in London, Ontario. Thank you for joining with me this evening for Sunday Stamping. This is my weekly crafting night where I show you what I've been working on and feature some products or techniques. So I'm just going to make sure that we're okay here on Facebook Live. Yep, everything seems to be good. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave them below and I will try to address those during the live. If you are watching on the replay, let me know that you're watching. And again, if you have any questions, leave me a comment and I will get back to you. I hope that you had a good weekend, enjoyed the beautiful weather. Yesterday, I was able to take part in a Stampin' Up! Event. Which was done by Zoom, which was kind of nice because I was actually able to jump onto the Edmonton training session just because the timing worked better for me. So it was a great afternoon of networking with other demonstrators as well as learning all about the new catalog that's coming out. Today I was able to go outside and enjoy the beautiful weather. I got out my hammock, so last year I really wanted a hammock because there was nothing to do, nowhere to go. And so by the time I decided that I wanted this hammock, that they were nowhere to be found, none in stock. So I got on it early this year, got my hammock, got it outside, and actually, if you saw my post, the funny thing is, the first time I got in the hammock, I didn't realize that the motion sickness that I have was going to affect me on the hammock, so that was quite entertaining because I promised my husband I was going to use this hammock, and then the first time I got in it I just did not feel good. But anyways, today went better. It was a beautiful day, and so I hope you were able to get out and enjoy this spring. Drop me a comment, let me know what you were up to today. Were you inside doing housework or crafting, or were you outside doing some gardening maybe? I have lots of yard work to do and none of that got done today. But anyways, let's get to crafting. So tonight I'm going to show you one of the retiring bundles in the annual catalog. It's called Beautiful World, and it's a die and a stamp set. So if you'll bear with me for a moment, I'm going to switch out my camera view, so just maybe look away for a second as I try to... This never goes as smoothly as I think it's going to go. Okay, I think that's okay. We're a little crooked here. Okay, so these are the world map dies, and they are the dies that are in this bundle. And then this is the Beautiful World stamp set. This is a red rubber stamp. Features the globe images as well as some sentiments. The reason I wanted to show the dies is because I'm looking at the online store and these dies are 75% off right now, which is an incredible deal for these dies. So even if you're not interested or keen on the stamp set, I would for sure take a look at the dies because they're just a great value. You get a circle die in here, so even, you can use them with the stamps in here, so it's meant for the globe. But that's just a nice basic die to have in your collection. And then this piece at the bottom is like a border detail, and then there's the die to cut out the feather. There's the stand for the globe, the large stand, and then the ink as well. So there's also this little, let's see if you can see that on camera. There's this die here that will do embossing on your paper, which is really neat. And it's got, what do you call that? Someone help me out. Like the latitude and longitudes. I don't know what you call that. Destinations? We'll go with that. Anyways. So this die will actually emboss instead of cutting out, which is a nice feature. So I have a couple of samples. Now, they're a little bit, they're not recent ones I've done, but of course they're in the last year. So I'll show you this first one. This is one that I did for Father's Day. So this is using the designer series paper that is in the suite. And I forgot to check the online store to see if this designer series paper is still in stock, but it's all maps and it's got gold detail, the gold foil detail in it, so it's a specialty paper. This is that border die that I was showing you, and then the stamp set that I've used to go with it is Best Year, and that is a stamp set that we'll be carrying over to the new catalog, so it's got all different sentiments for different times of the year. I've used the gold foil with the dies to cut out the globe, and then I don't know if you can see this, I've taken a piece of crumb cake paper and I've run it through with the Settle embossing folder, and then I've sort of crinkled it up to give it an old world feel. So that's one sample, and then this other sample I had done for Christmas. So yes, there are some retired items on here, but the globe works well if you're doing a piece Christmas card. So that's what I wanted to feature on here. So like I said, if you're not interested in the stamp set, the dies are still multifunctional. You can use them on any cards. These two cards, actually, I didn't use the stamp set at all. I just used the dies. Okay, so tonight's card, I'm going to show you a bit of a fun fold. This is a flip fold card. It's the first time actually that I've done a card like this, but I had the idea of wanting the globe on the front, and so tried to find some sort of design that would work well with that. So I'm going to show you how to make this card, and I have used the stamp set on this card, but if you bought the dies, you could use a different stamp set. I did use the designer series paper on this card, and so it coordinates well with the globes, but if you used a neutral designer series paper, that would work well also. So let's get started here. I'm going to move these dies out of the way, and I'm going to move the stamp set. Okay, so to start off, I have a piece of Misty Moonlight cardstock, and this is a regular card base, so it's 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4 for right now. I am going to do another score line in a minute here. I do have, this is a piece of designer series paper. This is 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. You can see this is the other side, so it's got some mapping on there. I don't know if that comes through on the camera or not. And then I've got a piece of gold foil. This is still available in the online store. It is not retiring. Some of the other foils, like I noticed this silver foil is retiring, but the gold will be carrying over. I've got a piece of basic white cardstock, and then I've also got a strip of crumb cake cardstock. Tonight I am using crumb cake ink to do my sentiments. And I've also got a Misty Moonlight Stamp-A-Write marker, and I'll show you how to use this later. So to get things started, I'm going to cut out the scalloped edge on the cardstock. So like I said, this is a basic card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put in a half score line here. So what I want to end up happening is to have the front of the card fold back on itself. So I know that this measurement is 4 1/4 because that's where it's scored. So I'm actually going to take it at 2 1/8 in my trimmer, and I'm going to use the score blade. So the score blade is the lighter of the two knobs in the trimmer. And I'm just going to do a score line at the top and the bottom. And I'm not going to bring it all the way up because I don't really want my score line going through the middle of the circle. I don't think it really matters if you do the score line all the way through. You'll just see a little bit of a line at the top and bottom. Okay, so next what we want to do is cut out the scalloped edge. Oh, Janine, when does the retirement sale end? So everything that's retiring is available while supplies last. The retiring period is until May 3rd because the new catalog starts May 4th. So stamp sets are usually available for a longer period of time because those are manufactured in North America. So stamp sets usually don't retire, like they're usually still available until the end of the sales period. However, items like dies actually come from overseas, and so they will be while supplies last, because I suspect there won't be any more shipments. Well, I know there won't be any more shipments coming for those. So hopefully that answers your question. This sale is on until May 3rd while supplies last. Okay, so tonight I'm using the Layering Circles dies. These dies are carrying over. I thought for a moment this week, someone asked me if they were retiring, and I thought they were. But they're not. These ones are carrying over. The ovals and the squares are retiring. The squares are already sold out. And the stitch shapes are also retiring. But the layering circles are here for the next year. So I'm grabbing the second largest scalloped circle. And so you'll notice on my card I've only cut half of the circle. And so, oh, and there I go, bending my sentiment. So in order to only cut half of the die, what you want to do is place your die where you want it to be. So because I want it in the middle, and I've got this score line to tell me where the middle of the length is, so I'm gonna, of course this is gonna jump around, so let me do this down here. Shift around. So if you were worried about the placement and it staying, you could use some retired washi tape or some of that post-it tape that I've showed you. And I'm gonna grab my second clear plate, and I'm just gonna pull this back a bit. So you only want the second plate to rest on the die where you want it to cut, because it's going to cut where it's got the right sandwich of plates. So if there's not enough pressure, then it's not going to cut. So you can see I'm only laying the die on half of the circle so that it's only going to cut this bottom part, and the top part, because it doesn't have the right pressure on it, is not going to cut. So this is a little tricky, and I'm just super particular, so let's just make sure this all fits, and then you're going to crank it through like you normally would. Okay. So that plate pops off, and I pull that out, and you can see that it's only cut the 1/2. Okay? I'm going to pull up this machine for 1 second here. We will need that again. And so I'm going to show you how to do the fold. So grabbing your bone folder, if you have one, I grab mine here. So you're going to fold the card base in half like you would in a normal card. And then where those score lines are in the middle, you're going to fold back. Now, I haven't quite cut my circle in half. Oh, there we go. So there, it's going to line up now. And use your bone folder just to burnish those edges there. So you can see I've got the flap, and then the scalloped edge goes around on this side, and so it completes a whole circle. So that's step number 1. And then I'm going to take my Designer Series paper, and that becomes the matting on the inside of the card. In order to adhere that, you're going to want a tape runner. So I'm using my Stamp and Seal here on the Designer Series paper, and just making sure it's lined up in the middle, and then you'll be able to see the Designer Series paper on the outside. Okay. So the next step here is I'm going to cut 2 more circles, 1 white circle for the inside and 1 white circle for the outside. So I'm going to grab my machine again, and using that piece of basic white, and I've got, again, I'm using the layering circles. I'm using the 3rd largest of the circles, the plain circles, not the scalloped ones. And I'm going to cut 2 of these out because I want them to be the same size so that you can't see the one circle that's on the inside from the outside. So these circles will fit in the mini Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine also. However, to do that technique with the die only cutting on one side of the card, you do need a larger embossing machine, because the card base will not fit in the size of the mini. But these layering circles, if you're using them, will fit in the mini machine. Okay. So we've got those two circles, and then the last piece that I want to cut with the die cutting machine is I'm going to cut out one of the globes in the gold foil. So here's the gold foil paper. Now I'm just going to trim this up a bit. With the gold, or with any of the foil, I like to only have a piece that's big enough for my die, because I find when I put it through the machine with the plates, I can get some marks on the foil, and this paper is very sensitive to marking. So I like to cut it down to about the size of my die. So one tip that I would give you is that whenever you have detailed dies like this with lots of intricate detail, I would highly recommend purchasing the adhesive sheets. And the reason for that is that it will turn your die shape into a sticker. And with fine details such as these, it's hard to get glue to sit on the paper that's going to cut out without making a giant mess. So these adhesive sheets, they're double-backed, double-sided, and the sticky part now is there. Hopefully you can see that. And that you put on the back of your cardstock that you're going to cut. I'm going to put this in the middle so that I make sure. It is quite sticky. Okay, and then this is going to create a sticker for me with the die. And I find not only will you get adhesive all around your die, but it's actually easier to pull out the little pieces when you use the adhesive sheets. So that's our last piece that I'm cutting. So I'm just going to pull this out and grab my Take-A-Pick tool and pop this out. Okay, so you can see actually I pulled out some of the finer pieces, and I'm just going to leave that for right now because I want to do some details on here. So let's look at our circles. Okay, so one is for the outside and one is for the inside. So I'm going to do the inside one first. And the stamps that I've chosen for this card, one of them says, "Life is a beautiful journey," and I'm going to use that on the front of the card. And then the inside piece says, "Thank you for being part of mine." I think this would be a really great card, you know, if you're giving it to a mentor or somebody who's just made a great impact in your life. So I'm inking this in Crumb Cake ink, and I'm just going to stamp in the middle of this one circle. And then the second circle, so this circle on the outside, I'm actually just going to show you a bit of a technique. I found when I put the globe on the piece of white, it was too stark for me. I didn't like that there was so much white, so much blank space. So what I did is I grabbed one of my Stampin' Write markers. This is the Misty Moonlight. This is one of the annual colors for 2020 to 2022. And I'm going to do some flecking on the circle here. So I don't know if you can see this in camera or not, but you can see some little details with the ink. It's kind of like an ink splatter. And to do that, you're going to take the marker at the brush tip. So this is the wider of the two tips. These are dual tipped markers. They are refillable with the ink refills. And then you are going to use the cap to make pressure on the brush tip, and then you're just going to flick it down. And then if I can pull this up, you're going to get that splatter effect. Okay, and that just gives the stark cardstock a bit of interest. So to put the circle on the front, I'm actually going to pop this up with Stampin' Dimensionals. So this probably needs 3. I'm going to take the backing off. And then just mounting this in the middle of that scalloped circle. And then I'm going to put the globe on the front. So you'll find with the adhesive backing, when you pull the backing off the die, if I can find the edge here, it will actually pull away a lot of the detail in the middle, so you don't have to do a lot with your pick a tool to get the little bits out. There's a couple here. So there we go. and it's all sticky on the back. So I'm just going to line this up in the middle, and there we go. So I didn't have to fuss with any glue to get that on there. It just had the sticky backing on it, and now it's laid flat. And then to put the circle on the inside, I'm just going to use Stampin' Seal. And then I want to make sure that when I'm gluing it on the inside, it's covered by this circle in the front. So just lining it up and then sticking down. And so you'll see that's on the inside now. And you could use this piece of white to do, you know, a little bit of writing. If you wanted a bigger piece, you could write on this side. You could cut a strip of basic white and glue it on the inside. Okay. And then so the last thing I want to do for the front of the card, now you could add some detail here, you could cut out some designer series paper, but I just quite liked that it was monochromatic. The paper was the same color as the cardstock, and so I'm just going to put the greeting on a strip of crumb cake. And so I've got the Life is a Beautiful Journey stamp, again inking in crumb cake. And I'm going to place the stamp to the left of this strip. There we go. And then to finish this banner off, I'm going to flag the end using my favorite banner triple punch. This strip I've cut 1 inch wide, which is actually, it'll fit right in this groove, the smallest groove that they've made for this punch. So I'm going to slide it in and then pinch the edge. This banner triple punch is retiring at the end of the catalog, so if that's something you're interested in, make sure to grab it now. And then I'm just going to glue this to the front. Now, because it's hanging over the edge here, I'm going to make sure that I only put adhesive on the left side of that banner, and then gluing it in place. Okay. And so that's our card. So a little bit of a fancy fold. It does fold flat, so it will fit in an envelope. So not to worry about that. But it's something a little different and a little fun with a fun fold. So again, check out the World Map dies. They are on sale. They're 75% off, which is an amazing deal. And then also to let you know, I do have catalogs coming in. They'll be ready later this week. So if you're interested in a catalog, I will have a sign up, or you can drop me a comment under this video and I will arrange to get you a catalog. And then also tomorrow, Monday, April 12th, is the last day to sign up for this month's Stamp-A-Stack class. We will be using the Butterfly Bouquet bundle, focusing mostly on the dies. So if that's a class that you're interested in, make sure that you RSVP with me. Monday, April 12th, that is the last day to get in for that class. If you have any questions at all about anything I've showed tonight or any of the retiring products, please feel free to drop me a comment or send me a message. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening and take care. Have a great week. Bye now.